Today's Anxiety Slayer podcast is brought to you by the Anxiety Slayer First Responder Series for anxiety attacks. Learn how to stop an anxiety attack anywhere and anytime with a special tapping sequence you can use at work, social events, or doctor's visits. We will show you exactly how to use this powerful technique to feel calm again in just a couple of minutes. You'll also get support for how to feel safe again if you have an anxiety attack away from home, stopping the fear of an anxiety attack, and a guided calming session you can use to help you rest on challenging days. Make 2019 the year you slay your anxiety attacks with our step-by-step course for stopping anxiety and reclaiming your life. Enroll today and save $20 through February 17th at anxietyslayer.com. Welcome back to the Anxiety Slayer podcast. I'm Shan Vanderleek here with my wonderful friend and co-host Ananga Sivyer. Hello, Ananga.
Hey, Shan.
Today we're answering a question from a listener who fears having a panic attack while away from home. A couple of the discussion points that we'll be covering today are the fear that anxiety attacks can flare up without warning and anxiety due to not knowing the cause. I'm glad we're talking about panic attacks away from home. I know this is a big source of fear and concern in our private Facebook group, and it's come in quite a bit over the years from different emails and things that we've received. So let's dive right in.
Anxiety attacks are such an awful experience. Many people end up in ER feeling like they're having a heart attack. It's such a physical presence and something that just completely can take over your body and mind. So once somebody's experienced that once or twice, then understandably, you can feel very anxious about leaving home. Very often with anxiety, we don't like the thoughts of being unwell or appearing out of control or vulnerable in a social setting away from our safe place. And that tends to be the fear with anxiety attacks that can keep us home. We have many members in our group that are afraid to leave home in case that happens. And that fear that anxiety attacks can flare up without warning is really what can keep us stowed away and very fearful about stepping outside and engaging with the world. And the other thing that really concerns people about anxiety attacks is not knowing the cause. We feel that if we know where something's coming from, we have a good chance of dealing with it. And anxiety attacks can feel so sudden and so random, and often it feels like they strike with no warning at all. So I think these are very important points to discuss. And the thing with anxiety attacks is that they're not as random as we think. They're almost always a result of anxiety building beneath the surface. Sometimes when I speak to people, it could be from a stressful event 2 or 3 weeks ago. And suddenly it feels like the anxiety's come and reared up and you've had this big episode, and we might think, well, that was a couple of weeks ago. But very often when we're dealing with intense experiences, we're operating in that fight or flight mode. We're producing a lot of adrenaline and we're getting by. And then sometimes when things settle a bit, then we can experience anxiety with that letdown of adrenaline. Sometimes somebody might have taken a medication a few weeks ago. Some cough medicines, for example, can cause anxiety attacks. When you sit and discuss and explore with somebody that knows well the patterns of anxiety attacks, there's almost always a cause and effect that can be found. So I just wanted to begin by saying that, because for me that puts that one fear to rest, that there usually is a cause, and once you know what it is, you can address it.
This is something that we explain in great detail in our First Responder Series course for anxiety attacks. Understanding and weeding out the possible triggers of your anxiety attack gives you the ability to stop the anxiety from building into a full-blown attack. It's really important to know that. Getting to know yourself, getting to understand what might be going on, and then being really, really sweet. Because anxiety attacks can be stopped. It's absolutely possible to stop one. And once you know how, those attacks lose their power. And once you know what to do to stop an attack when you are out and about, it saves a lot of nervous anticipation. And you're less likely to experience an attack because you're prepared. And that's a big part of caring for yourself is to be prepared. If something comes up, what am I going to do? What do I know that I can do to support myself?
Yeah.
And there's a couple of things that are needed to stop anxiety attacks. And the first one being someone to show you what to do and taking action to practice the techniques that are shared with you.
Yeah, the main challenge with anxiety attacks is not the attacks themselves. They can be stopped. The problem is the way anxiety affects our thinking, and it leads us to believe that nothing works and that we'll be stuck like this forever. Very often, when we have regular heightened anxiety and we start to notice some pressure in our chest or some tingling feelings in the body, those awful symptoms of anxiety, some shortness of breath, then the mind zooms right in on that and immediately starts the catastrophic thoughts like, what if I'm going to have an anxiety attack? And once you hone in on those anxiety symptoms in that way, the anxiety instantly escalates. But there are things you can do to stop that happening. There are things you can do to learn how to be prepared. And you can absolutely stop a panic attack in its tracks, and we can show you how to do that. I used to suffer with frequent awful anxiety attacks. I would run out of social events. I couldn't eat in front of people. My hands would visibly shake. If I was invited to a meal with friends or family, I would be so anxious. I would dread it. And I would sit at the table and I couldn't pick up a glass of water. I couldn't pick up a fork. I would wait till people went out the room and then quickly eat while they couldn't see me because my hands would shake so much. And I can remember a couple of times thinking, okay, just pick up the glass, but I'd spill it. I'd be shaking so much. It was awful. And the pressure in my chest, even talking about it now, I can remember what it felt like. And for years, that's how life was for me. But it isn't anymore. And I learned everything I could about overcoming anxiety to help myself and then to help others do the same. So you can do it. It's absolutely possible to overcome anxiety attacks.
I'm so glad that you did what you did, Ananga, that you learned what you learned and have become the person that you are today, helping so many who've been suffering. And I didn't know you back when you suffered frequent anxiety attacks, and the woman that you've evolved into through all of your work and study and everything. Anyway, deep bow to you, my friend.
Thank you. Thank you for your kind words. I think it's really sometimes a blessing when we suffer because we know what it's like.
Yeah.
Even talking about it then, I could feel it in my chest coming up again. I know what it feels like. And once you do, you'll never judge somebody else for what they're going through. And I think that's the really important part of anxiety coaching is a coach doesn't direct you and instruct you. They stand shoulder to shoulder with you. They know what you're going through. They know what helps. They know what works. They've been through it. And it's a very powerful alliance to be able to show compassion and tools and techniques simultaneously.
Mm-hmm.
I don't regret a moment of what I went through. I'm just grateful that I know what it feels like.
Yeah.
And love supporting others. And it's just good to know when you see somebody suffering that you can say, it doesn't have to be this way. It really doesn't.
No, it doesn't. And once you learn how to reduce the triggers that provoke anxiety and how to stop an anxiety attack, there's something so anchoring about that, so grounding about that, because you're tackling anxiety from both sides, stopping it, escalating in the first place, and also knowing how to stop an attack in just a couple of minutes. You're prepared. Then you can feel more confident going away from home and being out in the world because you know exactly what to do if your anxiety flares up and how to stop it from escalating and feel safe and calm again. We had one of our members in our private Facebook group share that she went out on a date and it was a big deal to go out and do that. First of all, there was some anxiety around going, and then she got there and started to feel anxious, and it started to creep up. And she very bravely let the person that she was having a meal with, her date, know how she was feeling. And he was incredibly supportive and just asked her what she needed and sat with her until she was able to do whatever it was she needed to do to move beyond it. And then she had a nice time. It was such a beautiful story.
Yeah, I was so happy to read that. And the thing is, once you get through an experience like that, that stays with you forever. And once you've stopped an anxiety attack, they're never as bad again because you know what to do. Because half the horror of anxiety attacks is, what do I do?
Yeah.
What do I do if I end up in an ambulance? Many people can't afford an ambulance. It's not in their budget to deal with that. We had somebody in our group who'd already had to take a ride in an ambulance and got a massive bill. So that adds to the anxiety. What do I do if it happens at work? Will I lose my job? Do people think I'm crazy?
Yeah.
All these what if. And then when you know how to stop an anxiety attack, you get the what if, and then you can say to yourself, then I'll stop it. I know what to do. And the whole anticipatory thing, it just fizzles out, just fades away. You can go in a bathroom, excuse yourself, and stop an anxiety attack in 2 minutes once you know how to do it. And in our course, we give detailed training and instructions on how to do this, but there's also an SOS audio there that you can put on your phone, and I'll talk you down from an anxiety attack. You can listen to it on the train, on the bus, in the doctor's office, wherever, at work. Just excuse yourself and listen. And once you know, oh, I can stop it. Oh, that wasn't so bad. Oh, I got through that.
Right.
That stays with you forever. And then anxiety can't creep up in that same dark way over your shoulder because you have an answer. You have an answer that works, and everything changes from that point.
It really does. And it's all based on taking action, because anxiety tells us that nothing works, but that's simply not true. We can take action. We can stop an anxiety attack. We had a message come in this week that was fantastic, and it made us both smile, that the tapping techniques are legit. It's only my first week of doing them, but I can't stress how awesome it is to feel in control of my thoughts. Anxiety is something I know I will always live with, but with the help of the Anxiety Slayer series, I know I have control. Thank you so much. That was just such a great, great message to receive. I love when people do the work and learn that they can absolutely slay their anxiety.
Yeah, so good to hear.
Thanks for another supportive episode, Ananga. I'm glad that we have the opportunity to come together each week and share. And thanks again to all of our listeners for listening to Anxiety Slayer and for being a part of our community. Make 2019 the year you slay your anxiety attacks with our step-by-step first responder course for stopping anxiety attacks and reclaiming your life. Enroll today and save $20 until February 17th at anxietyslayer.com.